Hi viewers, how are you? Been a long time getting back to you. I've got a little bit of a practical demonstration today. I'm over here at Jimi's in his little den of iniquity. It's bit messy, but it works. We've just been setting up Jimi's new PSE, and man, you're in for a treat when you see this thing. It's awesome. I'm doing a little bit of a catch up on a subject that came up, it was probably 5 or 6 months ago now. And I had this discussion with Jimi in regards to setting up your bow with thin arrows and then just shooting thick ones, thinking it doesn't make a lot of difference. Well, I've got a little demonstration here today that'll sort of show that it does make a lot of difference, which most of you probably agreed on. This again is probably something for the less experienced guys that get watching Jimi's channel, because I like to throw stuff out to get you guys aware of things, not overthinking things. When you're new to this sport, you really got to work on your technique before you get too involved in minute fine tuning, because at the end of the day, you can only tune your bow as well as your own ability allows you to shoot it. So really work on you've got to have your bow shooting right, but really work on your technique before you get in too much in the intricacies of the techniques, of the tuning and the shaft, the bare shaft tuning and all that sort of stuff. Work on your technique. Anyway, I'll get back to this. What I'm going to do today, I'm going to show, hopefully, just how much a difference when you set your bow up initially for, say, that's a Nano Pro, it's about a 5mm arrow, which is the standard size, pretty close to standard for your top end target arrows. Now, if you set your bow or your nocking point up for this size shaft, which I've got on the demonstration, I'll put the thicker shaft on and just show how much difference it makes to the way the arrow is actually going to come out of your bow if you don't make the appropriate adjustment. Now, like I say, this is a 5mm shaft. So what I've got here, this vertical line represents the string of your bow. This bottom line here is square off that, which is the accepted place where most people would set their compounds up, with the arrow square off the string. That's dead square off that vertical line to represent your horizontal plane and what your arrow would sit. Now, if that's the position where your rest would be, I measured that. It's about 8 inches, say, from the string to where your burger hole, just as a reference. So if I sit that arrow there in place, you should be able to see that that line underneath it virtually runs parallel with that arrow, which to me is telling the arrow square off that vertical string references.
I'll zoom in for it.
Zoom in for it and see if it works that way.
Yep.
Right, so that's set up appropriately or correctly in my eyes and what you guys would think. Now, if I take that off and I've got one of my NVX 23s, which are about 9.2mm as opposed to 5. So you're talking 4mm difference, 2mm each side is effective. So this arrow is only 2mm further top and bottom than what that arrow is. But what I'll do now, I'll sit this arrow into the same position, same nocking point, the same arrow rest reference. Now have a look at the front of the arrow now to see where it's travelling in relation to parallel off or to square off the string. So what this means is that the arrow is, when it's coming out of the bow, if you don't make this adjustment, it's actually being pushed down at the tail because it's coming out at that angle there. Now, there's another factor to consider here too. When you shoot your bow, if you've seen a slow motion of a compound being shot, this position here represents the string and the brace height relative to the handle. But the strings don't stop there. Generally they travel through probably inch and a half more, depending on the bow. So if I move that even further in, given that the arrow is going to be released in that position, that compounds and creates even a bigger angle here. So that's the difference between shooting an arrow that's effectively only 2mm deeper here and there than what that one is. And there's another factor that I did think about, and I did test with this. If you use a drop away, it doesn't make such a big deal, because the drop away, as it implies, it drops away before it gets to that point. If you use a blade, you're definitely going to have a contact problem with an arrow coming out at that angle.
Chuck the 27 on and see the difference.
Well, this will be even more interesting with the 27. What are these, about 10.5 or something, aren't they?
11 maybe.
That's a broom handle, isn't it? Wow. We'll go back to the original spot. So here we are again with an arrow that's, what, another 2, say 1.5, 2mm bigger again. And look at that, that's how much difference that is as opposed to being square off the string.
It's big difference. Just
It's
tilt it
huge.
back a bit
Yep.
for the people. Yeah, that's it.
So effectively that arrow knocking point should be up there to run it square off your string. So that's a significant amount. So that arrow is going to be coming out of the bow and the string's going to be wanting to do that to it. So that's just thought I'd throw that in there because it's been playing on my mind for months and months and we've been trying to get something sorted. So I wanted to get that one out there just to make you guys realise that, yeah, it makes a difference, but it makes a significant difference. And I'll be back with more videos.